Esosa.
Hi.
We're at Maroubra, that's right.
Yep.
Where were you born?
Lagos, Nigeria.
And what year was that?
1970.
And when did you come to Australia?
1976. God, ages ago.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And where did you move to here?
First place we went to was Paddington. Went to Paddington from about the age of about 4. That's when we arrived. And we stayed there for a few years, and then we moved to Waterloo.
And what year did you go to Waterloo?
Waterloo was roughly 1980, 81. Yeah.
Right. And how come you came to Australia?
My parents, well, my mother especially, she was really, really eager about moving away from Nigeria and coming somewhere else and just giving her family and her kids a better life, I suppose.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have 2 brothers. They're much younger than me. Oh, not much younger than me, they're younger than me. I'm the oldest. It's 3 of us.
And, well, what are your earliest memories of Waterloo?
Waterloo, gosh, there was so many. I went to school, we lived in a block of units, and there would have been probably about 200 of us. Everyone was from a different background. They're Aboriginal, and there was Greek and Lebanese and Hungarian, Asian, Chinese, and we had a school, our primary school was right across the road from our flats. So that was fun, going to school and coming home, and on the weekends you'd play with all your school friends because everyone lived around you and they lived in the same units next door. So your friends who you live with next door also became your friends at school because we all went to the same school. So school was fun. Going out to all these different parties, ethnic parties, that was fun.
What was the school?
Was Our Lady of Mount Carmel at Waterloo.
Who ran that?
It was I think the Sisters of the Rosary, or it was Catholic school anyway, Catholic primary school. Yeah.
And you lived in a flat?
We all lived in a flat, yeah. So many flats in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a housing commission?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Did they have a name?
Oh, God. What was the name of it? Camellia Grove. Gosh, yeah, Camellia Grove. Camellia Grove. I mean, they're all the same, little tiny units and little tiny balconies and had a little patch of grass at the front and it was the car park underneath. It's very simple. Yeah.
Well, what kind of a kid were you?
What kind of a kid was I? Gosh. I was very athletic because I used to be an athlete, so a lot of the times kept busy doing athletics, come back from school and go straight to training. Apart from that, there was my brothers and we were all growing up. We were 9, 10, 11, and that's when all the guys came, boys, you have boyfriends, and staying out till about midnight and around in that compound with all your friends. Basically loved having friends around. I loved having my friends around, and you became very close. And because you were from that ethnic background or whatever background, whether they're Aboriginal or whatever, you could communicate with that because we were all coming from somewhere else to that, yeah. But I think it was my friends and just being young there at that time.
And was there any group that was it good because there wasn't a big group that was dominant? It was just that everybody was such a mix?
There were groups that were dominant. Now they're bringing that up. There were groups that were dominant, but that's only because they were older. We were much younger, but we were allowed there with the group, the older group. It doesn't matter where they were from. They were just all there because I'm probably about 15 or 16. Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't ethnic.
No,
just age.
It was just the age mainly. Yeah.
What I was wondering about in terms of all the racial mix there, was it that it worked so well because you didn't have one big group like out in the suburbs where kids went and there were a lot of Anglos or a lot of one particular group? No,
these are all different groups. I mean, there were groups, but they weren't major threatening groups or anything like that. There were lots and lots of different types of groups and everybody knew who everyone was because it was just so small. And if someone else came into your compound, that was fine. No hassles about it. You just did your own thing. So, yeah.
That's great. So everybody had just all different friends from all different families?
Exactly, yeah. It was one small town, basically, especially then. Don't know what it's like now. Yeah.
And was there a group of flats? Sometimes you talk about compounds or something. Was it like a group of flats where there were hundreds of
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of flats. There's tall high-rise ones. There's Daniel Solander and James Cook, the Camellia Grove. They were high-rise units, but the ones we were living, which were Camellia Grove, there was probably about 4 or 5 floors, and that was it. Compared to the other who had, I think, about 50 floors. So, yeah, it was fun.
Gosh, it sounds great.
It was. It was fun.
And were you the oldest in the family?
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Well, the next question is, what sort of a family do you come from? How would you describe your family?
Golly. Strict. Very strict, especially my father. He, being from a Nigerian family, ways were set. I suppose it's like with any, especially Lebanese or Greek, ways were set that the girl had to do what she had to do, the cleaning and the washing and whatever. And the father would work and the mother would stay home and look after the kids and go to the market. But very strict, and we knew our place as children. We could only be spoken to when we were allowed to be spoken to and we were acknowledged. I found it hard I suppose, to handle that, because it was just hard for me, because my parents coming from another country, expecting me to be like that person from that other country. It was hard, because, I mean, you've grown up here since you were, 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden being raised in a different environment, your parents expected you to be from the old. It was hard. Yeah.
And you'd be seeing all your friends.
Exactly. I mean, they're all in the same boat too. They're all in the same boat, but we got a grip of it, and you fight with the parents, of course. Or like, you're growing up when you're 13 or 14, you fight.
Yeah. In your family, who controlled the finances?
Gosh.
Were you aware?
Not really, no, I wasn't aware. But I think it would have been my father. Would have been my father, definitely. But my mum knew what was going on, so that was fine. Yeah.
Well, what sort of a woman was your mother? How would you describe her?
Oh, God. Very strong-headed, very, very set on her ways. Very aware of what was going on around her. A lot of the times we didn't listen to her because she was our mother. I mean, a lot of times he does. But no, she was very, very strong-headed. She always knew what she wanted. Always knew what she wanted. And even though now that I look back, I thought she was wrong, but she was right. She was right, and she was always telling the truth. And especially growing up, and when you're 13 and 14, it was hard. You thought a lot of these things I was saying to you were totally wrong, but she was always there, and she was always fighting, a fighter. Yeah.
Were your parents religious?
Oh yeah. We had to go to church. Every Sunday at 8 o'clock, we'd be waking up, and we had to go to church. Catholic church, Mount Carmel, of course, up the road. So we all walk up there, including everybody else. I mean, we all did everything together, people from the other different flats. So going to church was fun. Doing that was fun even. We'd play up at church and, get the ear clipping and things like that. They were religious, Catholic. Well, my mum was Catholic. My dad's Catholic. My mum's Church of England. But church was always a part of it, and they're very faithful, and you pray before you have dinner and things like that. So religious to a point, not too religious, but church was something we had to do. Yeah.
When you went with your friends to mass, did the kids all sit together at the back?
Yes, we all sit together at the back and laugh and laugh and laugh, and then one of the parents would turn around and they'll come and just clip your ear, and you had to be quiet. Or even if your friends didn't come with you, you'd have to roll up, at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, and you walk in like a dag, because my parents would make us wear what we didn't want to wear, and so you roll and your friends would just turn and laugh at you. They'd just laugh their heads off, and our parents would turn around and give them a clip on the ear or something. So it was fun though. I mean, that was just part of growing up. And mass was actually something we talk about now. If we all came back together, we'd talk about mass. It was something that we hated doing. Yeah. To do it.
What was your parish priest like? Was he one of those
very priesty,
brimstone type
Foreign?
fire and brimstone sort of type sermons, or were they really mundane? Usually you get somebody who's really boring to...
He was very boring. Now that you think of it, he was very boring. Yes, he was hell, actually. Now that I think of it, I just went on Z last Sunday, so he was very boring, very plain, very just the same sort of... He's still the same after all these years.
And you know, with your church, did you go to confession and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, communion, confession, baptism. We had to do it all. Midnight mass, Christmas Day, we had to do it all. It was a big thing. Oh, you're going to midnight mass, you're going to midnight mass, and everyone would go. It was great. It was like, I suppose apart from family, you got your other family as friends, so it was fun.
And were you involved in things like, there used to be something called Catholic Youth CYS, or... What's
CYS?
Or, no, a sort of youth things, and they'd...
Like Antioch?
Maybe,
Something
yeah.
like Antioch. No, I didn't dwell into it that far. Mass was enough.
Legion of Mary.
Religion of Mary?
No, Legion of Mary.
Legion of Mary.
And that was for girls.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, what about politics? Were your parents politically involved?
No. No.
Did you?
I mean, vote-wise, you mean voting, or?
I
mean, like everybody votes, yeah. Apart from that, that's it,
yeah.
I think.
Did you hear them talking about what the political...
Actually, my father, he always watches the news. He's always into documentaries. He was always watching ABC, trying to hear up on what was happening back home, political-wise. And even here, I mean, he always rave on about it, but we, including my mother, we had no major interest in the politics of what was going on in the country. No interest whatsoever.
What sort of discipline was used at home?
The pointing of the finger, a smack on the bottom like everyone else, being told to go to your room. No, not being told to go to your room, being told to go to your room, and then you just go to your room and you're not allowed out. Or just basically not being allowed out, just being grounded, I suppose.
And what do you mean by the pointing of the finger?
Authority, just letting us know who was in charge, basically. I mean, the smacking came always, on the bum, and just, I suppose, not being able to go out, mainly, yeah.
And what would you do to, what would you have to do to sort of get something like that to happen, you know? What would you be considered naughty?
Oh, God, that's a good question. It's like everything I did was wrong. It's like everything I did was naughty, but that was then. Now it's, I suppose, just not listening. Not listening and being sent to the shop and asking, bring back the change, and not bringing back the change, whether it was 1 cent or 5 cents. I suppose it was my father's way of disciplining you, making you go and work, like at McDonald's or wherever, just so you knew what the dollar was worth and things like that. Making us go and work was one thing he did purposely, so he wouldn't give us money, so we had to go and work.
At what age?
Oh, from about, how old was I, 16, working at Macca's. But yeah, not being able to do what you wanted. If you didn't listen to something, you'd go to your room or just wouldn't be able to go out.
Was entering back a big deal?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a major big deal. The hand would just come out from nowhere, you're gone. Answering back is, don't you know who I am? I'm your father, I'm your mother, and same thing that everyone does. But they really drum that on you, and that's what makes you sort of, I think, rebel in a way, because you thought you were right, you thought you were right, and you tried to speak back and tell them no, and they told you were lying. No, I'm not lying. Don't you answer in their African accent. So that was even funnier. But it was funny a lot of the times, especially because my father was a little bit more religious than my mother. I can remember one time, I'll never forget it, sitting down, we had to pray in the name of the Father and the Son before we have dinner, and laughing at him, because it was just, he just took it that far. And my mum would joke with us, against him. But that was discipline-wise, it was mainly just being told to go to your room and not to come out for a few days. Yeah.
Okay. Were you expected to contribute towards the family? So when you were 9 or 10,
yeah.
Did you in the Depression, a lot of kids had to do things like sell newspapers and that. But what was it like, say, in the late 70s? As a 9 or 10-year-old, were you expected?
No. My dad, he was more the disciplinary side. He used to see kids at 9 and 10 who used to wake up in the morning, like back in the 70s, all kids, lots of kids used to do the paper runs, and like 6 o'clock in the morning you hear the whistle, and he would wake up at that time and he'd be there buying the paper and said, well, look, that's what you should be doing. You know, that was at 9 and 10. But then my mum would say, no, they're kids, let them grow up. So that was what he thought, but just not to punish us in any way, but just to make us understand that this is what life's about. You know, get in there and have a go. I mean, if you know you do something, if you have a job, do it for a while, and you don't have to do it all the time. You're a kid, I understand that, but at the same time, I want you to understand that this is what life's going to be about. You have to work for a living. So yeah.
So when you were 15 or 16, though, it encouraged you to get a job.
Yeah, and I wanted to get a job anyway, make some money for myself, and not rely on them. Yeah.
What did the family do for fun? Did they do anything together as a whole family?
Yeah. We used to go to the African Line Safari, old Sydney town.
African Line Safari?
Yeah.
Was that when you were feeling homesick?
I didn't know what it was like to be at home with things like that, but going to picnics, doing the whole family thing, going to barbecues with other families, and pretty family. It was like a real family sort of thing. Because my dad, once again, he made sure that, you know, he tried anyway, that we all got that family atmosphere, especially when you're young. Because he knew, but like the time we were 12, 13, we had our own friends, and we'll probably concentrate on them more. So he tried to get that in beforehand.
Did you have any relatives here?
No. No relatives. The only relative we've got now, he's been here for about a year. So we've been like with that. I mean, we've been here for about 20 years now. We went without any relatives for probably 20 years. Yeah.
So did he create very close friendships with the other people in the area and sort of? When you say your family, your father.
Yeah.
When you say family, do you mean?
I consider my friends age group as my family, second family.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And that your parents encouraged the development of those strong friendships?
No, all the kids around that compound, we were like that anyway, very friendly, and you made friends with everybody, and we did everything together. Even go to the city, we would all go to the city and catch the same bus, from kids who were 6 years old to, God, who was the oldest? It would have been about 19. So we all did that. We would have been about 10 or 12 of us. It was great. It was fantastic, yeah.
Well, what would you typically do in the evening?
Like after school or on a weekend?
Yeah, after school. And the family in the evening.
Okay. After school, my dad might go to tech or uni. He'll be at uni. Okay, so he'll be away, and my mum would have dinner ready, or I would cook. Or if I didn't cook, she would call me and say, "This is what we're having for dinner." Pull up a chair, sit down, and watch. No qualms about it. Sit down and watch what I'm going to cook for you, so that when you grow up, you be able to cook the same, and you know how to cook. And when you meet your man and you get married, and you can be able to cook for him. But things change. But yeah, she would mainly be home cooking, or she'd wait for me and she'll buy everything ready, and so I knew how to cook. Yeah, but I don't know how to cook now.
And in the evening, would you watch TV?
Not while we're eating.
No, after the meal. So
after the meal. Yeah, after the meal we're allowed to watch TV, but then we'd have to do our homework. TV's out, forget it, straight to your room, you know where your room is, pull out that chair and open that book. Yep. And
you're expected to do well academically?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, from the day we were probably born. Back home, like I said, my mother, back home. When I have my kids, they're not going to live here, they're going to live overseas. Didn't know where, but I'm going to take my kids purposely for the number one reason that they're going to have an education, or even though they don't go to uni, they're going to at least get some sort of like a HSC or something, and then do what they want to do, or maybe go to uni later. Yeah.
And where did your father work?
When we first arrived.
Yeah, and just as you were growing up.
He was working for a quantity, because he's a quantity surveyor. I suppose it's a branch of like architecture. So when he finished his degree and he's working in a quantity surveying firm. Yeah. But I mean, at first it was hard. He was working in I think it was a tobacco factory. But then he had a sort of a certificate from Nigeria, which didn't mean anything here. So because he's really quick, really intelligent. So he thought, okay, this is what I want to do, and worked it out and got into uni. But he was making a tobacco factory first, and then got into a firm, quantity surveying firm, and took it from there. I suppose. Yeah.
And your mum never worked outside the home?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. She would have breaks. She'd work and then she wouldn't. She wouldn't. She loved travelling. She worked now and then, here and there. Yeah.
What sort of work would she do?
Basic. Well, at one stage for a few years she did a degree, travel, or like a certificate, like an advanced certificate. So that was travel. But then she would just be working, just doing secretarial and assistant to the office work.
Were they ever involved in sort of industrial action or anything like that? Unions?
Oh, please. No interest.
Okay. Did they like their work?
I don't know. That's a good question too.
Did you get the sense of them being satisfied and happy in their employment?
At that stage, yes. They hardly ever complained. Or maybe I'm tired tonight or anything, but complaining about the whole situation, not really, no. They were fine, they were happy because, anything's easier than over there. Yeah.
Well, could you describe your mother's working day?
Travel? No. Okay. Well, when we were going to primary school, my brother was still young. So when I was in 6th class, he would have been still not at school. So she would have been looking after him. But when he started going to school, she would, I suppose, work probably just as an assistant to somebody, and that would probably be part-time. And then she'd come home and she'd wait for us and set up for dinner or lunch or whatever for us after coming back from school. So it was, and the job she did, a lot of them would like part-time, 3 days a week and a few hours a day. But that was it. She's not someone that really likes to work for people, so she'd rather work for herself.
And did you have to help at home with the housework?
Oh yeah. Oh.
Well, what would you do?
Everything.
Yeah?
Did everything.
Washing, ironing?
Saturday morning, 7 o'clock I'll be up. Did the washing. Did I do the washing? Yeah, did the washing, the ironing, did the washing first, and then would put it on the line, and then would iron that, all the whole families, would soak the clothes, soak what had to be soaked, separate them, do the washing, do the cooking, do the cleaning, the vacuum, the scrubbing, wash the car. I did it all.
At least there weren't any lawns to mow.
Oh, I would have done that too. There were, but I didn't have to do that. Yeah. But I remember doing majority of the work.
Well, what about your brothers?
They're brothers. They're boys, male.
And they weren't expected to?
No. Yeah.
And was that just your father or your mother's idea as well?
My mum would help out now and then, but I think mainly it was my father. He, once again, was thinking of the future and what I would... because they expected the norm, have a husband, get married, the whole thing. But but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it because that's what I do now. I get up on Saturday and I just do it every week without fail. The house clean, everything. So I'm glad I did that.
Good training.
Yes.
Okay. Would you describe your parents as happy?
Happy then or now or?
Then, were they happy people? You've described your father as being strict, but was he strict? Was he a happy person?
He loved his family.
Yeah.
He loved his family. That's why he's a good advisor. Even though at the time I thought he was nuts, he was crazy. Only because I was at that stage where, being a teenager. Yeah, it's happy. I never heard them complain. I don't know whether they're happy or not though. But I think they were happy.
And what was a typical meal?
Oh gosh, a typical meal. It's hard to describe because you probably wouldn't understand what they were. Very Nigerian, very Nigerian. I mean, no, a lot of things don't you probably know. A lot of things with beans, a lot of rice. I mean, rice is a staple food. So a lot of things like semolina, I don't know if they make that into like a mashed potato sort of form. And then with the mashed potato on the side would be some sort of stew. So you eat with that together. A lot of rice, a lot of vegetables, I mean, come Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock, we'll be up, go to Paddy's Market with the trolley. The trolley will be full of vegetables, all sorts of vegetables and fruit. They'll concentrate more on that than buying a lot of, I mean, we didn't have things like biscuits and we didn't have sweets basically. Ice cream now and then, but it was mainly the vegetables for dinner and vegetables and a lot of starchy sort of food, a lot of pasta, beans, rice, semolina, a lot of grainy sort of food.
You vegetarian?
No, a lot of meat too, of course. A lot of meat for some reason. That's probably why I don't eat it as much now. But it was a lot of meat, maybe because there wasn't that much over there in Nigeria. Chicken, things as raw as possible. Things without artificial sweetening and colouring and flavouring and, you know, I mean, the cake would come into, my mum would bake a cake or cheesecake, something scones and things now and then, and homemade pizzas and things Saturday and Sunday, but trying to get away from all the artificially coloured stuff. Yeah.
Sounds good.
It was.
Okay. There were a lot of kids. Well, who were your friends?
I had a best friend was Asian. Another one was Irish. Another one was Australian. So I think it was mainly those, and then another one was some others were Mauritian, but it was mainly those, and a lot of them from the flats, from what we call the flats. But it was mainly myself and the Asian girl. We were like sisters. We went to school from scratch, and because we were both ethnic and had that ethnic background, we understood. And she would stay at my place, and I'd stay at her place, and basically it was probably about 4 or 5 of us, and then they're the close ones. Then you have probably about 10 or 20 more that come around and just hang around and. Yeah.
Well, what would you do together? What?
Oh gosh. Like I said before, we'll go on trips to the city, 10 or 20 of us.
And what would you do in the city?
We'll just look around and buy things if we could, or go to the park. And I remember one time the Sydney Festival, I think that was on, so we all went there and just bought ice cream, went to rides and.
Did you have much money?
Parents, all the parents gave us money. Each parent gave each of their children money. It was enough. It didn't spoil us.
And how old were you when you're going into the city with your friends?
God. We would have been probably like about 11. It's unbelievable now I look back, but between 11 and 13. 11, 12, 13. We got up to a lot.
Tell us.
God. We, even not going to the city, we would go to, like I said, across the road was this church. It was Mount Carmel, and behind the church was the school. And Mount Carmel's on a hill, and we're basically on that hill too. And there were a lot of birds around, a lot of nests. This is going way back. And one of the birds died. And my best friend's brother, who would have been about 6 at the time, we had to have a burial for the bird. So we all gathered, the whole flat gathered, all the kids gathered, and Manuel had to say a prayer, and he had to dig up the bird and bury it. It was very tearful. It was really sad. And we do things like that, and the bonfires. Are they called bonfires?
You crack a night?
Yeah, on Cracker Night. That was unreal. It was fantastic. We go to the pool together. We go to the swimming pool at Prince Alfred Park. About 10 of us just walk from Waterloo down to through Redfern and. Go to the pool for the whole day and go to the ice skating ring, just go to the city, go to the movies. Be about 10 of us there right at the front, going to watch R-rated movies.
Did you get in?
Oh yeah. We just sneaking around, being cheeky, but I mean not doing the bad things. So did a lot. Sometimes just hung around, did nothing.
Had a lot of freedom.
Yeah, now that I look back, I did. And I used to complain. I did, yeah. I did.
Let's see. Can you remember any adventures you had?
God. Oh God, we had that many. I just can't remember. Every day was an adventure. We'd play, like we'll go to the other flats like James Cook or Daniel Solander, and we'll play was it called Knockdown Ginger? No, it was called Knockdown Ginger. And we'd do that. We'd knock on the doors, and then we'd run like to every single floor, and we'd run down. It was a bit like 1 a.m. in the morning. Don't know how we got out. And parents would just come screaming out. Every floor would be opened, all the doors, and people would be coming out of their windows and abusing each other and blaming the next door neighbours. But then by this time we'll be off. We'll be at our flats.
How old were you?
Probably about 10, 11, 13, 12.
Well, your father couldn't have been too strict if you were allowed out at 10 or 11.
We snuck out sometimes. Or we used to sneak out. We used to open the window. Well, friends, Saturday from about 10, my parents would be asleep, put the TV on, friends would be knocking on the window. Esosa, come out. Open the door, put somebody in the bed, make out as if the bed was somebody, and we'll go. And then make sure we got home about 12:30 a.m. And just make out as if nothing happened. It wouldn't go anywhere. But we wouldn't get up to much though.
This is okay. You know how you're talking about sneaking out?
Yeah.
What would happen if you got caught?
Got caught. Couldn't go out. Had to stay in your room. Got whacked. My mum would go out and she'd gather all these little sticks together, little tiny thin sticks, probably about 6, bunch them together, and she'd make you put your hands out and she'd cane you.
Really?
Yeah.
Did that hurt?
Oh yeah. I remember screaming and someone calling the ambulance, thinking that something was happening. But that's probably one of the worst things I can remember. But other things, just getting smacked on the bum and being made to feel that you did the wrong thing, and not being able to go out to go to school, come home, go to school, come home. That was like for weeks. So yeah.
Okay. What games did you play? You mentioned Knockdown Ginger. What other games?
Oh God. Elastics. What's the other one where you would you have 2 people on one side, two teams, and then you had to throw the ball at them. Like people in the middle. People would be in the middle. There'd be one person on one side, and one person on the other side.
Poison ball.
Yeah, poison ball. And then there'll be what's that other ball? The other game you hit against the wall. What's it called?
Handball?
Handball. Thank you.
Sorry.
Handball. God, there's so many of them. And in our compound, in our flats, there was there was a sand park. So you had the flying fox. You had the new, at that time it was new. It wasn't the amazing thing. It was a swing that just went all the way around, just forever going. And you had mazes and. They had a little game area where you just roller skate, and then a little park where you just sit down and talk. But everything was on a scale for us, for kids, because everything was just so much smaller. So it was great. It was fun. Games.
And it wasn't vandalised, this park?
No, it's still there. Still there.
And who provided that? Was that the Housing Commission? Or
Yeah. That was one of the first I think the first compounds to be fitted with a park, a little tiny park like that. And then if you fell, it was fine because it was just all sand. It wasn't grass. It was just all sand. So it was like a little tiny park. So many games.
Did you ever play a game called Prisoner's Base?
How did that go?
Then people in stop. So did you remember Prisoner's Base? Prisoner's Base,
yeah. I do remember it. I'm not sure of the name, but I know the game was you actually had to. I think you had to sort of stay in one place, and the person like you said, you had to pick a point, and then you had to go around that point. And when the person called out stop, you had to stop where you were if you didn't get back to the base where everyone else was, and then somebody had to tap you or take your place in order for you to be able to come back to where everyone else was before someone else can get you, and then before you're out. There's another game, I just can't think of the name, but it was branding. There was also branding. There were two sides. One side would stay in the box, and the other side would stay in the box, and then there would be some people in the middle, and you're just supposed to just practically branding them with the ball until everyone's just got out. And then there was handball, of course.
What about marbles? Were they ever?
Oh yeah, marbles are there. Roller skating, used to roller skate everywhere. Now that I remember it. But Knockdown Ginger was a favourite. Like I said, you go to all these units you hardly go to, you wouldn't go to anyway, and you just knock on their doors and just run back to your own home. And there was water fights. When come summertime, it was like 40 degrees. The water fights. That was fantastic. People just come out of nowhere. Kids just come out of nowhere from other compounds, come to your compound, and just basically they just drown you until you're just totally soaked. That was summertime. That was really early in the morning, like on a Saturday morning. Or then we just go to a friend's place and just watch movies. That was just another thing if we didn't have anything to do. Or just go to the shop. Just going to the shop, buying chips and playing basketball and just hanging around. Everyone buying chips or buying chips for everyone else who couldn't afford it, like a little 6-year-old couldn't afford it. There's some of the games, I'm sure I can remember more.
You mentioned before that you were an athlete. What did you do? Did you go to Little Athletics? Yeah,
I started off doing little athletics, and then I started running for a team, team, Randwick Botany, I think, representing them, and then running at school. And if I ran for the school, I'd represent the state. Just sprinting, 100 metres and 200 metres. And that was hard because even though it sounds like a lot, I did a lot. It was, to me, I didn't do enough. As a child, I thought that I was neglected and couldn't do this and couldn't do that. But then I realised now that I was doing athletics and doing gymnastics at the same time and still having all that time to play and do whatever else, and still having a tutor teaching us maths and English and the rest of it. So yeah, it was busy.
Yeah.
Busy. Yeah.
And where did you have to train for the running?
Yeah, I had a coach. I had 2 coaches. I used to train. He used to pick me up from school, probably about 4, and we would go to the Oval and we'd train for about 3 hours, for about 4 days a week.
Gosh.
That was it was hard. And I did that from little athletics from when I was about 6 till I was about 17. So that's when I thought no more.
You just decided you didn't want to do it anymore.
It was too much. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like I wanted to be an athlete or anything at that stage. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it. Yeah.
What toys did you have?
Toys. I'm personally, or the 3 of us.
Yeah, or just what toys were around. What were fashionable, sort of?
Oh, with all the kids?
Mm.
Oh, that's a good question.
Or what you had that was special?
What did I have that was special? I would probably say I love my roller skates. Growing up, when we moved to Waterloo, there were the roller skates. Oh, the roller skates, the skateboards, the boogie board, the bikes. What else? I think it was mainly all that, and then other little things we had the dolls. We weren't really interested in the dolls. It was just mainly stuff that could keep us occupied outside, because we stayed a lot out. We spent a lot of time outside. So there was a lot of roller skating everywhere, all over Waterloo and Redfern and probably even Surrey Hills, and I think it was basically, and bike riding everywhere and going to Centennial, riding down to Centennial Park, and yeah.
Did you go down to Centennial Park?
Oh yeah, we used to do it. We used to just Centennial Park, the city, Redfern, Surrey Hills, probably Chippendale, bits of Chippendale. So we just knew the whole area.
Was it ever dangerous? I mean, did you ever?
No.
Never had any bad experiences?
No bad experiences. None whatsoever, none that I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any places you weren't allowed to go, where you were told you're not to go?
Oh God. There was a compound in front of, we got our flats, and then you got the church, and in front of the church there was think there was somebody living there. I mean, this probably was something the kids go through. There's somebody living there, but don't go there. Don't go there because she's a witch or something. I don't know. I can't remember where it was, around that area. The patch is all gone now, but at that stage when it was this grass area, and there was somebody living there. It was either a man or a woman, derelict, and we just weren't allowed to step in there. And if you did, it was at your own risk. You had to run through there. Especially if you wanted to cut through, like to go to the shops, you could easily just cut through and you're at the shops. But if you didn't want to cut through, you weren't supposed to, you had to go all the way around. But nothing ever happened. I mean, you know, it's just something that you weren't supposed to do, but we did. Yeah.
I want to ask you about the use of the word compound. That's a really funny word. Like people would say the park or the
flats, I say.
The flats.
I used to say the flats, but I know it's because maybe I've grown out of it. But it was the flats. Yeah. It was the flats.
Other kids didn't call the park area the compound?
No, it was the flats.
Yeah,
you knew the flats.
So that's just your word.
Yeah, it was the word that we all But
it probably was. It was a bit like a compound because it was all, surrounded by flats, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was surrounded by flats, and there was a part that was open for a car park.
Yeah. Okay, it's an odd word.
Yeah.
Were there any people you had to avoid?
As in friends or family, or our family? Did we have to avoid anyone, or did my friends have to avoid anybody?
Well, the people that your parents told you weren't allowed to associate with.
They didn't actually say that. They didn't say, well, don't hang out with this person or don't hang out with that person. Actually, there was. On our floor, there was a family. Not that we were told don't hang out with them, because they had a little boy. He probably would have been about 8. But he was a lot more intelligent, a lot more quick than his age, than an 8-year-old. But they were I think they were druggies, and everybody knew that. And so they would have a lot of raids on the flat all the time. And it's a place a lot of people just would stay clear of, just because families were ethnic and they didn't understand what it was all about, and you just had to keep away. So if you were seen standing around there, it's, what are you up to? What are you doing there? And
dealing.
Exactly, yeah. Or not dealing so much. I mean, you never saw them deal, but everybody knew. Everybody knew, because there'd be a lot of. I mean, the police squad would be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, banging, and everyone would get up and go out and see what was going on. But you never saw them dealing or anything. You never did that. There's hardly any of that. I mean, as kids, I didn't pick it up as a child. Because I didn't know anything about that at that time. Was
there a lot of was there much crime and drug-related crime? Do you know in the
area? I suppose there could have been. But once again, I wasn't aware of it. I mean, you knew who was, whether he was a drug dealer, you didn't know, but you knew who was dodgy and who was not somebody you sort of associate with, even as a 10-year-old. I mean, you knew these people were a lot older than you. They're probably 20, 19, and for a 10 or 9-year-old, that's very old. That's much older than you, of course. And so you thought they knew a lot, and they always had the nice cars, and you thought something about them. Maybe that was just me, but it's not something we really dwelled into because we weren't interested. We're just being kids. Yeah.
Was it considered to be? Were there a safe neighbourhood? Like, were there a lot of break and enters and all that sort of thing around?
Not really. Not really, because now that I think of it, the kids, there were always kids around, always kids around, and we all had our own floors. So my best friend lived next to me, and the other best friend lived 2 doors down, and so there was always somebody there. If I wasn't around, they'll be hanging around the balcony after school, doing their homework or whatever, just sitting there doing their homework or meeting guys on the same floor. It was just, a lot of times you didn't have to go out to do a lot. You just stay there, and friends would come and visit you too, or you go and visit them also.
So people would hang on the balcony?
Exactly, yeah. Hang on the balcony until like 12 midnight, just talk and hang out, and then your parents knew where you were because they could hear you talking. I mean, this is your door, your front door, and your friends are out there, and you're there for 5 hours. You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. So.
Were your parents very security conscious?
In what way?
In terms of getting broken into and things like that? We've had generations tell us that you could leave their door open, they never locked the door, and they left the front key in the door. And I was just wondering, at what point in Sydney mythology did this end?
Yeah, I understand. There were times when we left the keys on the door, yeah. There were times when we left the windows open because we was being kids. We were left at home, and Mum said, "Okay, look, this is what you've got to do." And she'd write down what you have to do. Don't forget to lock the window, close the door, take da.
So when you went out, you did lock up?
Oh, we did lock up most of the time, but there were times when you forgot to lock the window and everything would still be there. You know, I can't remember ever being broken, the house, the unit, flat, ever being broken into. So, like I said, once again, it's not something that we worried about as kids. We just played. Just basically played, yeah.
Okay. Well, what was school like?
Primary school? It was like one. It was almost like one family, like, because, like I said before, all the people I live with, we went to the same school, and a lot of us were either a year above me, or like in 5th class, they're either a year above me or a year below. So, and a lot of them, I mean, our school captain was she ended up being my best friend, and school, because the area was very, multicultural, so it was fine to be from another background. But after, like any other school, I suppose you have the dominant cultures. Like you get the Lebanese who are dominant, you get some of the Australians who are still sort of taking over, and someone coming from another country, you knew where you stood. School was fine from the beginning because everyone was made to feel welcome. It was a Catholic school run by nuns. In the morning you would assemble and you had to sing that song, school anthem.
What was it?
Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It just went on and on and on. And then you had to get the book out, the Golden Wings book, and I will carry on golden wings, and the whole, you don't remember it? God. Every morning and every afternoon before school and after school I had to say that. And then one of the girls would get into a fight with another girl. Okay, I'll see you outside, 3:30 outside our flat, outside the flats. And this girl would live next door, the other one would live probably up on the other side of Redfern. So both of them, and all the guys and all the boys and all the girls will come out and they'll be ready to watch these two girls fight. And they'll be at it, tearing at each other's heads. One was Australian, one was Lebanese, and the cultural background was really something that upset the Australian girl. And, so there's always something happening. But school was good because you could also compete. You also competed with people who were from another background. But then you also had to compete against the Australians there also because they were Australian, they had been there for a long time, they knew what was going on, and it was a little bit harder for you. But then you start making friends very quickly because a lot of them lived in your flat, so practically next door.
Was it quick to overcome? Were people quickly accepted? Like, people would be suspicious of newcomers initially,
yeah.
And did they quickly get over that?
They got over it, I think, probably after a week, if that.
Yeah.
Because, the nun, one of our principals, Sister Gabriel, she would inform, okay, we're having such and such come to the school, they're from such and such country, they've been here for such and such time, you make them feel welcome. And that was it. Yeah.
The Attila the Hun project.
Yes, she was. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
She tried to get the racism out of the kids.
Yeah. And made it just, that wasn't going to be tolerated.
It was just easy. It was easy. Very easy. Yeah.
Okay. And how did the teachers treat you? Were they what?
One teacher I remember now. I was probably her pet. Teacher's pet. It was English. My mum ended up being really good friends with her. She was an English teacher. She was Irish, so I didn't have any problems in English at all. But with the other teachers, we had a nun, because primary school is obviously different to high school. When you're doing your subject, it's with one teacher. You don't go to different, And but our sister Patricia, who we had, she would favour my best friend, which is fine with me. There's no jealousy at all. But then a lot of the Australian girls or guys or boys didn't like it. But having friends was no problem. Everybody understood where everybody else was coming from. And being so young, now that I think of it, it was just, I don't know, it would be hard now to go back and probably do that again, because it'd be hard to sort of mingle, because people have so much judgments about you now. But when you're younger, you just accepted, whether they were from wherever, Everyone just took everybody in. So that was the beauty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it probably doesn't happen at any other time.
No. And see, I think that was a good time because whether you liked it or not, you had to be in there. Whether you liked it or not, you had to go to school and you had to face everybody there. And for me, that was a good thing. And for my brothers, because whatever happened, we had to face what was out there. So we just had to do it. Yeah.
Okay. You were happy there?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Sex education?
At school?
Yeah, or at home. Did you have any?
Don't go to any dark corners. That's probably about it. That was about it. At school, primary school or high school?
At any time, I mean, there were generations of people that were just told nothing about sex.
Yeah. Growing up, sex education, no. But my father, he would point out that this is what, if you met a guy, you should not go with him because they'll never explain why. They'll just tell you. And if you ask why, you're in trouble. They'll just tell you, don't go into any dark corners with any guy, you don't know anybody, stick with your friends, stay where there's light.
Don't take lollies from strangers?
Oh yeah, that would be the number. And I remember actually going to piano lessons one day at Erskineville. I had to walk through Waterloo and walk through Redfern and Alexandra, and never taken lollies from anybody, but you got people who come up to you and want to do things to you or say things, and you know straight away that they're not the sort of people you want to speak to. You just keep going on your way. I mean, I remember somebody stopping me in a BM, or probably would have been about 13, from school, went home, took my book out and just walked, minding my own business, and he stopped the car and he had I think a map, and he obviously knew where he was, but he just taking advantage and just being really obscene, so you just, things like that, I think that's just one off that happens. But never take anything from anybody, never going with anybody anywhere, never trusting anybody.
You trusted your friends?
Oh yeah, I mean, because you grew up with them.
And was there a lot of trust between the people in the flats and in the neighbourhood, aside from the people who are getting busted? Was there a sense of trust or community there?
Oh, there was a sense of community. Nothing drastic ever happened that someone got broken into or anything like that, that the trust would have to be sort of displayed. Not that we had to go out of our way to do anything. If anything ever happened, nothing did happen. But mothers would always talk with the other mothers, and because a lot of the fathers would go and work and the mothers would stay home. So people were always around. And people always talk anyway. They still talk, so, yeah.
Before, when you were at school, you mentioned about the singing the golden rules, something that you said.
Before going to...
Before school and after school.
Was it assembly, you mean? Or?
Yeah, and there was a ritual song or something you said.
This is at school.
Yeah.
This is,
At school.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about other kinds of rituals, like, were there any things like, so they used to celebrate Wattle Day and Arbor Day, and there was Cracker Night, and did they ever run the flag up the flagpole and do any saluting, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
sort of stuff.
That was with the assembly. That was every day. The assembly and singing.
They put the flag up.
Yeah. It was a full-on school. It was a full-on Catholic school.
They sing "God Save the Queen"? No.
They didn't go that far. No.
Not if they were Irish.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of trying to remember what occasions were. Did you ever have to say something called the pledge?
The pledge? No. We would. Oh, actually, the school pledge. We had to say the school pledge. We had to sing. We had to say the assembly. And then sing the school song. And then somebody would probably go up there and say a little prayer or something, and make the whole business, and then they would make announcements of what was happening and who was doing what, and then they had fates and things like that, and people and parent-teacher night and fates and the whole bit, really.
Yeah. Can you remember any other kind of I don't know, like mass displays where they got kids from, you know, dozens of schools and had to put on
Ethnic shows.
or singing and dancing or physical culture and gymnastic displays or anything, just...
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, we, behind I can't remember the name where the sisters used to live. The convent, thank you. And it was the presbytery where the priest used to live. And he had a really nice, he was the only priest, and he had this huge mansion. And below that mansion there was the park, like the theme park for the kids, the really tiny park. And now that I think of it, the school was pretty small, now that I think of it, because the park was small. And then he had the park down there, and then further down the hill, he had the tennis court. And that belonged to the priest, but he let us use it. So when we had sport, I think every Tuesday was sport day, he'll let us go down there. But then there'll be Saturdays where, like on Saturday, from I think about 9 o'clock till about 3, once a month, they'll have like things like little gatherings where you play egg, big and spoon and things like that on the tennis court. With the whole school coming to watch and, you know, just to get into it all. So it's like a community thing. It was, now I think, God, it was great. It was good. Yeah, when I look back.
It sounds like it was a pretty strong sense of community.
That was, yeah.
What was I going to ask? Sorry. What was the average family size?
Average family size. A lot of women. There were a lot of single women there, who have average roughly about 2 kids. They had 2 kids, and if there was a man in the family as the head of the family, there would be 3 kids, roughly average for some reason. But it was mainly 2, 2 or 3. Yeah.
And what were your favourite television programs?
I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Good Times, JJ, what else, MASH was on, MASH. I used to have to watch football, even though I didn't like it, I had to watch it because my brothers were into it. That was dreadful.
What team did they follow?
Oh, Souths. Souths or Easts. If it wasn't South, it was East, or probably Balmain, but it was mainly Souths, because everybody followed Souths. And that's when they were doing really well at that stage too. But yeah.
What about radio? Did you listen to radio programs at all?
No, I used to listen to the good old Today FM or Triple M, whatever it was. I was into music a lot. I loved to listen to music. So it's mainly when the top 40 or whatever it was came on, I'll switch on to that. And that was usually on a Sunday night before school started. So I'd do that, and then it was homework, assignments, radio, television. We used to love watching television. Get up on Saturday morning, that's 5 o'clock in the morning. The cartoons were on. Parents would be snoring in the other room. I'd wake up and then wake the other 2 up, and we'll close the door and go into the room and put the muesli on and sit down and watch TV. And then they'll get up, start rustling about 7, and then we'll pretend that nothing happened, and we'll go back to bed and wake up about 8 and start the day.
At school, did you have, were there radio programs on, ABC radio programs that you ever had at school?
Yeah. One was called Behind the News, and that was about everything. And they used to make, I think if you were in 5th class, by the time you got to 5th class, you had to have at least an hour a day of Behind the News. That was because the way the principal wanted it, so that we knew what was going on financially, politically, economically, community-based wise, culturally, anything happening international-wise. She was a great principal, yeah.
What about TV? Did the classrooms have TV?
A few of them did. Probably most of them did. But the ones that didn't, they would go to the other class and watch it from there. It wasn't a problem. And then the library was downstairs.
So you're really talking about late 70s, early 80s, aren't you?
I'm talking about the early 80s, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to... Oh, right. Let's talk a bit about the neighbourhood. What sort of, how would you describe it in terms of its composition, like in terms of residential, industrial, or...
In terms of what was there? Or
yeah,
what the buildings
physically
were?
what it was like.
Physically it was ugly. Especially when we first moved there, we hated it because we're coming from Paddington and coming from all the nice terraces and everything, and we thought we were going to go back to something that was like that. But my parents basically wanted to go somewhere where they could save some money, and so they were housing commission, so they took it. And so when we got there, we were disappointed because in front of where we were, I mean, one side was nice, one side was the hillside, the Mount Carmel side where the church was and everything else really pretty. Along the other side to that, it was a lot of, I think there was a factory there, and it was just it was just like a wasteland. It wasn't a dump, it was just a wasteland with just grass, and it looked awful, and a lot of places were like that at that stage. But then as time went by, as the years started to progress, they started building really nice units and terraces, and then you started to see the change from one corner, and then in the next 6 months another corner had been changed and things have been built on it, shops or community places. One factory was left open. I think it was a bakery, a huge bakery. I don't know if that's still there, but a lot of the places, a lot of the paper mills and places like that started to close down, and they started to take over with a lot more terraces. And I think they've actually finished it now. So.
Were they demolishing places that we're talking about the 80s? Were they demolishing places then?
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were. They were demolishing places in front of us. Houses that were just abandoned houses that you couldn't live in. And then the plan was supposed to go on from years and years. Apparently, when we moved in, this is what it's going to look like by the time you guys move in, and it's going to look pretty. And none of it happened. There was supposed to be a swimming pool across the road from us, like a recreation sort of area with a football area, an ice skating ring, or something for kids where you can play at. But they never ever got that going. So instead of that, they had terraces.
What street are we talking about? You're talking about across the road from you.
We're talking about, because where we're in the middle of everything. So so you've got our street, you've got Kellick Street, and then across the road is Wellington Street, and then across the road again is Pitt Street. So we're right in the middle of Wellington, Pitt, Kellick, and the next was Elizabeth Street. So we're in that area, that busy area of the suburb. Yeah.
Were there many actually functioning factories there at that time?
There were a few. Like I said, the only one that I could remember, especially waking up in the morning, was the bakery. But I think by the time just before we arrived, they closed a lot of them down to make it residential.
Where did most people work from the area?
That's a good question. Most people worked. I think a lot of the people worked. I don't think a lot of people worked. I think some of them worked in the city, and some probably would have worked at Alexandria, working in shops, counters, assistants. But I think mainly in the city, or even Botany area, or around the South Sydney area itself.
Would you describe it as affluent? Like what sort of jobs?
It was working at shops, working for other people, working behind the counter. A lot of people were trying to do anything, working in a hairdressing salon, or you work at Coles as a checkout person, working at the butchers. A lot of the men used to work at the butchers for some reason. Working for the council. A lot of them worked for the council. Working for the council and just other odd jobs. A lot of people did cleaning work. A lot of people had second jobs, driving cabs, studying. A lot of people were studying at the time, going to uni. A lot of people were new to the country, so that's the only place they could live, and so they did that. But then a lot of people, people who've been living there for generation upon generation, who still do the same thing. But there's a lot of people now that I think have worked for council. Yeah.
You know, Okay, so people didn't have a lot of money, and a lot of people would describe those areas, and they have across all this century, as being really, underprivileged or low socioeconomic status. But did you see yourself as deprived and living in a, before the flats, people used to describe those areas there as being the slums.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, how did you see yourselves living there?
It took us a while to get used to. Probably took months. It took about 6 months for us to get used to it. But because the people there were just so friendly, there's nothing you could do. You're in it. You're part of it. The day we moved in, we ended up moving our stuff till probably about 11 p.m. The kids, by the time we'd almost finished moving, the kids were sitting on our lounge. We were eating packets of chips, and they made you feel welcome. I mean, in the back of your mind, God, I don't really like it here. No matter how old you were, whether you were 6 or 10, I don't like living here. I'm not used to it here. And I've lived in a nice house in a terrace, and you're used to that. And then all of a sudden, you come to this flat. I'd never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. You turn around, there's these humongous concrete buildings, about 30 to 50 stories, and then you've got these other flats that just keep going forever and ever and ever, and there's so many kids around, and you just weren't used to all that. But then within 3 or 6 months, you're part of it. You have to be part of it. You just do it, and as a child, it's so much easier anyway.
But do the kids there see themselves as underprivileged or lacking stuff that other kids have from other areas?
I think you see the differences, but you're happy. You don't really, it's not something you talk about. It's not something you talk about. Maybe a few here and there. I mean, I know one friend who would make it obvious that this is not the place that she wanted to be, and there were a few who knew that this is not where they wanted to be, and in a few years' time they got a little bit more opportunity than somebody else next door who hasn't, and they're going to get out. You can see who that person was or who they were, and knew that they might.
And why would they want to get out? Because from what you've said, I think it sounded like a terrific childhood.
It was great. The childhood was great. These people probably wanted to get out because they had a taste of what the other life was like. I mean, we just lived the simple life as kids, but having a little bit more money, having a little bit more clothing, and being able to go to the movies a little bit more, and not that we couldn't go to the movies or anything like that. We were given money, we were taken care of, but just being able to, ride in mummy's nice car or mummy's friend's nice car, and living on the other side and being near the water and things like that. That's what, I don't know, some people got a taste of that and they liked it and thought, why not? Yeah.
Well, the areas around there, like just in terms of your neighbourhood, that were considered either higher or lower in terms of status?
Yeah, right next to our street, on Kellick Street, right in front of our school, right in front of our units, our flats. There was a street with just houses, and they were nice. This is just a personal thing. It's not something we talked about. But I mean, you knew it. You knew where you were, and you knew who you were, and you knew what was good and what was bad, and what looked good and what didn't look good. But for some reason, the people that came out of the houses, you would always find yourself saying hello to them. Maybe because they were from that little street that had all the houses, and because they went from units. But we didn't care. We used to play. A lot of the kids lived in those houses too, but we all got on the same.
But was like Redfern or Alexandria, Erskineville, those areas, did they have a reputation for being wilder or anything like that? Was there ever talk about, watch out for the Redfern kids or watch out for the Waterloo or you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yes, okay. There are kids who names would just come up all the time. And I remember one time a friend's brother being bashed. He would have been about 10. I mean, all these kids' names you would hear all the time, and you hope that one day they wouldn't come up to you and do whatever or say whatever. And a friend's brother ended up having, I think, a gold chain or something, and this kid said, look, I want it. And he said, you can't have it. And he said, well, I'll bash your friend. And he bashed him. And I mean, kids like that we were always aware of, and we knew the names, and we knew what they looked like. And if you didn't get in their way, though, you were fine, But a lot of them challenge you and just say little things, but there wasn't anything serious about it. But there was, and when you first moved into the flats, there was a bit of racism, but then it's quickly handled because everyone knows their place. Yeah.
But there were kids that you avoided because if you had something nice, they'd just take it, or.
No, they wouldn't take it. They would just, even though everyone knew where their place was.
What do you mean?
You knew, because you knew where your flats were, you knew where you lived, okay, obviously, and you stayed in your area. But I mean, you'd go out, not that you couldn't, you'd go out and you'd dwell out, and the other groups would come and go. Groups would just come and go, and you know that that group of 10 kids live in those flats, and we would go and play with these kids and play tag or touchdown or knockdown ginger or whatever, and then you just go to your own area. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You knew who was
Your
who.
territory.
Yeah. It's not that you fought for anything like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at that stage. But there were kids who came from Alexandria, or who would come from mainly Alexandria. A lot of them. I think a lot more of the notorious kids came from Alexandria, or maybe even Surrey Hills, and to come in. A lot of them were probably about 4 or 5 years older than us, so they're a little bit taller and a little bit bigger, and we just mind our own business. And that was it.
Okay. Was there a social focus of your neighbourhood?
As in doing things together, or
even for your family and for the adults, was there a place where people tended to congregate and, and talk? Or, it could be a pub or somebody's house, or I don't know. Were there any big political issues at the time, like say roads going through, or things that people wanted to hassle about, where they'd get together or to lobby or demand something? Or?
Within the flats itself, in the area?
Or just in the area, and that's linked with that social focus thing.
Yeah, one of them was to just even get in the park going, the park that took so long, the park that never came, but eventually came after many years. Even getting things like washing machines into the common laundry, that was a hassle. I think getting the road, even putting a crossing on Wellington Street, which is really busy, especially I think the crossing's there now, but at that one stage when we were there was no crossing. And not that kids were getting run over, but it was a danger. It was something that was dangerous and they had to be aware of, and they would never for years put a crossing there. I don't know why.
Well, who agitated? Was there anybody around the place who, were there any local identities who would jump up and down?
Yeah, but we never actually got to. We actually never got to get into that because we're kids who would.
You didn't hear your parents talking.
Exactly, yeah. But when we moved in, about 6 months later, they had a new set of building, a new units called Dobell and Drysdale. They were the up Mall Market sort of units, and there was a place downstairs. There was like a common room where they did have meetings. Well, we don't like this, we don't like that, we don't like that the roads have ditches in them and our kids can't play in them. We don't like that the car park's not done up well enough, and even just to come together. And what they did, they got a dancing school going, so that I ended up going to the dancing school, and some of us from the flats, my best friend, and we all ended up going on. The teacher ended up going on Puberty Blues ages ago. She ended up being on Puberty Blues because she was a really good dancer, and we were really happy that she was on it. And she was great, and she's still dancing. But we would all go there, and everybody from the flats, such and such is dancing. They're rehearsing tonight. And everyone just go there and watch from outside, and parents would say, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? There wasn't anything like getting together and having cups of coffee or anything like that. But if something like that came up, people would go there and have a look at what was going on. That's how they would meet. Or they would all meet at the shops. I mean, the local fish and chip takeaway shop. Not that everyone would go to the pub or anything like that. They weren't really pub people.
Well, and where did people do most of their shopping?
Down at Redfern on Botany Road. It was Fleming's at the time, which is now Clancy's, I think. I think it was basically all down that area, and then Paddy's came later, much later, and everyone just go there and do things. But it was mainly Redfern, Botany Road, doing the shopping there, and a few years later they did Redfern Street, so they got all the glitzy shops up there now, and people started going there. Yeah.
Can you remember any local characters?
There's also like a character, as in what? Something negative, positive, doesn't matter?
Doesn't really matter, just somebody who sort of stood out from the norm,
Okay, yeah, there was a girl who everybody loved, the whole of Alexandra and Redfern, probably a bit of Surrey Hills, Zetland. They all knew her, and this is the girl that everybody wanted to go out with. And she could pick who she wanted. Everyone knew her name, and let's just say the name was like, wow, you know, and she had people proposing to her when she was like 13, men proposing to her when she was 13, and then there was another guy who he was bad, he was naughty, he was like bad Leroy Brown, and he was someone you just did not want to meet. You didn't want to meet him because he had his gang with him, and they would be smoking. One of them was called Tuffy, and but then there was probably about 3 or 4 of them, and they weren't around Waterloo from Waterloo. They were from Alexandria, but they'd come dwelling into the area. Not that they couldn't, but you knew that you just didn't want to mess with them.
And what about older people, like not just kids? Just were there any, I don't know, local eccentrics?
Yeah. You always had them. You had the drunks. You had the person who you used to sell things hot to you. Go out and go to Woolies and cities, come back with all these bags of things, and come on, people, I got this for $20, and you know, it was fantastic. And then you just
was there a lot of that? Like you could get, you know, hot stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure that's everywhere there now. But then, I mean, you knew who you could go to, or you knew somebody who could get something. You knew somebody who could steal a car or break into a car, or you knew somebody who could just basically go and do something and come back and everything's there, you know.
Was it used a lot? Like if people wanted something like a TV or video or something, would they put in an order and
yeah, I suppose you have to know who the person was, but it wasn't hard.
No.
You could, you know, ask a few people here and there, sort of thing, and you got what you wanted, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What were the most popular newspapers?
I think the Daily Telegraph and the Mirror. Yeah, at that stage.
Yeah. And what smells can you remember that you associate back from that time?
The bakery. God, that's a good question. The bakery. Because we had in front of us, we had this tree, bloody tree, and it just used to stink all the time. I don't know what it was. I still don't know. But it was just the smell of a tree. But I didn't think there was any smells. People was cooking, like a lot of Yugoslavian and Greek and Lebanese, and that was it.
What about sounds? What sounds when you think back to that time?
Sounds. A lot of people talking. You can hear people in their houses talking. I'm not shouting, but just talking. A lot of television. A lot of television, loud television all the time. Kids. Parents calling for their kids to come up and have dinner and things like that.
What floor did you live on?
We were on the 4th floor. There were only 5 floors.
They have elevators?
No, they're just stairs. It was like this. Yeah.
All right, long way to bring the groceries.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Oh no, was there much prostitution? Getting back to crime, actually. No.
What, people staying out in the streets or people in their houses, or?
I don't know. You know, I mean, there's some.
Okay, being raised in that area, I didn't see much of it. I mean,
was there a local industry?
There probably was.
But you weren't aware.
Exactly. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of it. No.
Yeah. And what about major purchases? You know how you did your local grocery shopping up in Botany Road or
Redfern, yeah.
So what if you wanted to, you know, buy a fridge or a TV or something like that? I mean, and where would people get major appliances from?
Probably from the city, or maybe probably from warehouses or people who second-hand fridges, like and auctions and things like that. People who bought fridges and there's a little scratch and they'll give it to an auction house and you go there, places probably at Mascot. They go to Mascot and Rosebery, and or if you know somebody who's selling a fridge, or if there's an auction happening for fridges and white goods, and you do buy stuff like that.
Yeah, because there's not many sort of big
department. No, not at all.
And what did most people have cars? Did your family have a car?
Yeah. My family had a car. Next door had a car. The other side had a car. I think the majority of people had a car. Yeah.
Did you go on holidays?
Overseas or interstate?
Anywhere.
Yeah, we used to go to... We never went overseas. Never. My mum used to go overseas every year. She was the only one who went overseas every single year.
Where would she go?
She went to Nigeria. She went to India. She went to London. She went to Bali 5 times, India 5 times, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, London, Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Really?
She's done it all. Pakistan, she's done it all. And we hadn't been anywhere. Except my daddy went once.
Your father was happy for her to go by herself?
He would always wonder where she got the money from, but he didn't mind. He didn't mind. He didn't mind staying home.
She'd have to work for it. He wouldn't finance it.
No, he wouldn't.
That's a little job.
No, he wouldn't. Not for maybe the first few times, but then she just got it and just left and would go, and she'd book and do her own thing, and she'd just go.
That's pretty radical for somebody who you described before as being a very traditional family, sort of imagining your father as being like the boss.
Yeah.
But obviously your mother asserted herself quite adequately.
That's probably one of the reasons we came here, because of her, because that's how she was, like bang, bang, bang. Things have to happen, and yeah. But even, I mean, finance-wise, he was like, he's really like probably more of an accountant, and he could calculate all that, but she didn't want to know about it, just as long as it was there. Thank you. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Okay. Oh gosh. What major changes did you see?
With the area, or?
Yeah, just, was there any?
A lot of people moved out. A lot of people moved. There was a high rate of movement all the time. People coming in, people going out. People coming in, people going out. A lot of single women. A major change came when a lot of your friends moved out, and some moved interstate. Some moved up north to like Gosford and Woy Woy and places like that, and then some just left. Major changes when other people started coming in and you didn't know who they were, and because you're getting older also, and your friends are doing other things and sort of thing, and splitting apart and doing their own thing, going their own way. So there was a sense of I've got to get out too. I've got to get out.
Well, how many bedrooms were in your flat?
There were three bedrooms. Yeah, it was a reasonable size unit. Yeah.
So you would have been able to have your own room?
I had my own room, always.
So it'd be 3 bedrooms, a lounge room?
A kitchen, bathroom, separate toilet, balcony, yeah.
But as you're growing up, you wouldn't get a lot of privacy even?
No, you hardly got any privacy. I mean, privacy from your brothers, no, not even that. From your friends, forget it. You just never had time to have your own privacy. They were always knocking on the window or knocking on the door. Let's make a cake, come over, let's cook some noodles, let's make something, let's do something, let's go somewhere. 11 p.m, you'd be asleep, they'd be knocking on the window, wake up, we've got to talk. Or just to hang out, or let's go to the football, or football was another thing. Cricket was another thing. Football, Sunday morning, you wake up and the football was on. You'd hear it from Redfern Oval, and everyone had to go to the football. Whether you liked it or not, I didn't like football at all, wasn't into it, but my brothers played it. So I mean, at that area, a lot of people played football or cricket on Saturday morning. So you go down to Waterloo Oval and you watch them play football.
You know how we're talking about the holidays, we talked about your mum, but did the family actually go anywhere? Sorry.
Forgot about that. We used to go. We went to Canberra. Went to Canberra twice. Went to Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. There was one stage when I didn't want to go. I wasn't interested. I don't want to go to Perth before. Adelaide. They went to Adelaide together. Fiji. Where else? Just going out, I suppose, to Palm Beach and places out like that. Interstate. Yeah. And then as we got older, went overseas together.
And when did your family move out of the flats? Were your parents still there?
Oh no, they moved out. my mum and my parents, sorry, decided to buy a place, which is not far, which is in Zetland, which is probably more Rosebery, which more, yeah, probably more Rosebery side. But just.
How old were you when they did that?
Probably 17. Yeah, about 17.
And what were the big issues when you were growing up?
Oh God.
You know, even politically in the world.
God, I rebelled immensely against everything. I refused to believe my parents. I refused to listen. I refused to hear what they had to say. I couldn't understand why I couldn't go out. I couldn't understand why I had to have a curfew. I couldn't understand why Jane or Michelle, whoever, could stay up to such and such time when I couldn't. I couldn't understand why their parents were nicer than my parents. I couldn't understand why they were so cultural, so proud, so African, so West African, so Nigerian. I couldn't understand why they're so headstrong. I couldn't understand why they had so many beans and rice. There's just so much I couldn't understand. So I just wanted to get out. I couldn't work out, okay, what am I going to do when I get to 17 and 18? How am I going to bring boys home? I couldn't even think of that. Couldn't even think of it. It's like, God, what am I going to say? Are they going to make me, am I going to be embarrassed? Are they going to embarrass me? Because if they do, I'm going to get into a fight. And that was it, you know. And so it was hard. It was very, very hard. School was fine because that took up a lot of the time. But then going home, I didn't want to, I knew that I didn't, if I left school, I knew I wanted to do my HSC. And because my parents would not let me do anything else, I had to finish my HSC, and see, that's one of the reasons they brought us here, to go to university and to get an education. But at that age, at 15, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be 15. I just wanted to go to the movies and hang out with the boys and, you know, do what you got to do. So, but the athletics was always there, and you know, and that was a drain. So I thought, okay, forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. So I quit it when I was about 17, and I had time for my friends, just to go out and party. And I made new friends when I started to get into high school, and all my older friends, a lot of them, I didn't see that much anymore. But two of them, an Asian one and Irish one, we became best friends. Three of us. It was really funny because when we were in the flats, it was the three of us. So one was black, one was Asian, and one was Irish. It was just unbelievable. And you go to the city, you catch a bus, and the three of us would sit next. We did everything together. Had to go to the city together. Went to the pool together. She went to her house. We had to go with her to her house, and we all make a cake together and make some semolina and some rice and beans together, and bake a blue cake and a brown cake and a chocolate cake. Everything was done together. And then you go to school and you start to separate from that. It's a bit hard because you've got to make new friends, and then I ended up moving out, and one of them's still there now, which is, yeah, it's amazing. The one who's still there now is the one who thought she would move out when she was 15 and go up and, you know, do the best thing and get the uni degree, which was totally opposite. So, yeah.
I think is there anything I haven't asked?
You've asked everything. You've brought back memories here.
Yeah, I can't.
Triggered some memories.
No, I can't think of anything that. Common illnesses. What would be common illnesses?
I don't think a lot of us got sick. I don't think a lot of us got sick. It was probably common illnesses. There weren't that many. It was just more hurting, getting hurt. More of falling over and having a bruise or a sprained ankle or something. But it was never having, the flu and the cold, yes, like everyone else gets, but nothing like being in hospital for weeks or anything like that, like having asthma. But my brother had asthma, so he was born with asthma. But apart from the other kids, it wasn't, everyone's healthy, everyone's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I think that's it. Thanks very much.
That's okay, thank you.
Great talking to you. Okay.
Do? Oh, okay. Alright. Okay. Alright, bye. Just on the phone. Okay. I'll remember.
And do you look into funding things and all that for
Yes. Projects like this.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't got funding for the video developed for the
Hello.
production.
Hi, how are you? Is Paul there? Oh, the police force come in Brisbane. Who, me? I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Is he at the door? What's he doing? What are you doing there? You know what I'm doing? I've just been interviewed by a very nice lady and her daughter. I've been interviewed by a very nice lady called, you know, maybe. No, by a very nice lady and her daughter for South Sydney Council. Because you know, Sydney City Council, so South Sydney Council used to be part of the Sydney City Council. And now the South Sydney Council have drifted away and they've become their own council. And they haven't got any archive, nothing like historical. And so, you know, Dean Ingle? Yeah, but she's going to interview people from, like, for example, for people from that area, from that time, from when we were growing up in the 80s. And it's just some of the questions, remember all the games we used to play? From living in the flats, going out to with Bettina. She just interviewed me now. Yeah, just, I know, her and her daughter have come. And